You're listening to the Wellness Works podcast with Dr. Kris McClusky. This podcast takes you on a journey of lifelong health and wellness. We talk to top health experts and explore the real truth you're not always hearing about, the options you have to beat sickness and disease. And now, your host, Dr. Kris McClusky.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Wellness Works. I'm your host, Dr. Kris McClusky. We started this podcast last episode with Keith Wasung, who shared extensive amount of information based on what healthcare truly is and what options you have, and shared his amazing experience as one of the strongest men in the United States military who lost his health and was only given drug and surgical options to regain his health, none of which worked. He was introduced to a chiropractor who subsequently shared the story that we're going to expand upon today and allowed him to regain his health and he actually broke all of the records that he had previously set. So we had a great interview with Keith. If you didn't get a chance to hear that, go ahead and get that episode. They're all available on our iTunes website. But today we have a very special guest. His name is Jared Yellin, and Jared's become a colleague and actually a friend of mine over the last several months. He's an incredible gentleman, and we're going to share a little bit about the history of chiropractic and talk about the public perception of chiropractic, and then actually give you all some tools to use so that you can go out and find chiropractor that's going to be most appropriate for you and your family. So, Jared's been an entrepreneur since graduating early from the Kelley School of Business in Indiana University. Upon earning his degree, Jared launched a reverse mortgage startup company in Chicago. So Jared's not a chiropractor, he's a businessman. He spent time on Wall Street. He worked closely with Dr. Patrick Gentempo, who was one of my earliest mentors in chiropractic. He initiated the rapid expansion of a health and wellness franchise, participated in a large merger and acquisition of a nutraceutical company, and became a speaker for small business owners, undergraduate studies, entrepreneurs, etc. And most recently, I launched a marketing company called Synduit, and there's a branch of Synduit called Chiropractic where Jared has actually garnered the attention and had thousands of chiropractors become clients of his based on his unique marketing platform. So Jared is a lay person, as we say in the chiropractic world, a non-chiropractor, but he has vast experience within the chiropractic industry. And I think hearing some of his thoughts are going to really help you guys in your journey to go ahead and get out there and figure out the best ways to regain your health and wellness. So Jared, can you hear me, sir?
I can. Thank you so much for having me.
And we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. We know that you're out there helping so many people. So can you just share a little bit about what led you to have the understanding of chiropractic that you do? Because I don't think that you were raised with that knowledge. Is that true?
No, I wasn't, and I should have been, because I actually did not experience chiropractic until I was 21 years old. But prior to that, I was, in my mind, living the chiropractic lifestyle, just not including the adjustment, because I had no idea that chiropractic was part of a lifestyle. I didn't know it was part of a way of operating. I've always been an entrepreneur, so I've always had money to invest in anything that would give me the edge. Even when I was a teenager, all that I knew was health and wellness, and I was one of those odd kids that would, instead of eating Snicker bars, would eat protein bars, and instead of playing video games, would train my body in the gym, and instead of watching MTV, I was listening to Tony Robbins, and I would do anything that would give me the edge. I just had no idea that chiropractic was part of that, but I would have done it if I heard the story. And as I progressed, and like you mentioned, my background, I graduated early from business school. I started a reverse mortgage company. I ended up working on Wall Street. And during my time on Wall Street is when I recognized how much of what I was doing really wasn't, for me, my life vision. I wanted to do something that was truly impactful, and just being on Wall Street, I felt that it was impacting me, but it wasn't really changing the world. And I remember one day I was looking around the office, and I'm going to make a generalization at this point, but for the most part, there was people that were dying at their desks. And that wasn't everybody, but it was unfortunately the majority of them, whether it was because they were unhealthy or they were in pain or a variety of other reasons. People were just kind of going through the motions of their everyday life. I remember thinking to myself, if they were to live the life that I lead when it came to exercise and nutrition and personal development, they would have more energy. They would perform better in the workplace. They would enjoy life, for that matter. So I started to put together this corporate wellness program, which was extremely specific. I actually connected with some other entrepreneurs in New York City, and we started pitching it to various companies. And the feedback was extraordinary. It was very exciting to see this concept embraced. And one of the things that I learned in just getting this endeavor started was how important the wellness lifestyle is within corporate America, because corporations are always trying to find ways to improve the productivity and the energy and to remove absenteeism and sick time. And if people are living a healthy lifestyle, that's accomplished. So as I was beginning to spread the message of this program that we put together, I was reading a book called The New Wellness Revolution, which was by a gentleman named Paul Pilzer, who is a wellness economist, very successful software entrepreneur. And this book was about how the wellness industry was going to be the next trillion-dollar industry. And it got me really excited. And it wasn't just because of the trillion-dollar money aspect. It was, what would the world look like when the wellness industry was $1 trillion? Like, what would that mean? That would mean that people are operating and they're not coming from the place of pain or sickness or disease. They were able to live and experience more out of life. So I decided I wanted to connect with Paul. I didn't know who he was at the time. I just wanted to find a way to share what I was doing and have him be within my network. So I thought of 10 different variations of what his email address could possibly be, and I sent the same email 10 times. And 9 of them bounced back immediately, but 1 seemed to have gone through. I didn't know if it did or not, but it seemed to have gone through. And about an hour after that, I got an email from Paul, and he said, "I don't know how you figured out my email address, but I'm impressed, and I'm even more impressed with your vision." So I really opened up what I was trying to accomplish with this corporate wellness program. And he said to me, although I wish we could do something together, it's not the right time. He just started an HRA. He's really big with healthcare reform. But let's be in touch and see what happens. And for me, I was excited. I mean, my strategy worked. I connected with someone who I really wanted to have in my sphere of influence. And then about 3 hours later, I got another email. And this time it was from a gentleman named Dr. Patrick Gentempo, who you mentioned earlier when you were giving me my intro. And I had no idea who Patrick was. The one thing I did know is that he had a DC after his name, and so did the gentleman that my mother just started dating, her boyfriend, at a DC, who is now my stepfather. And I said to him, I said, "Chuck, who is this Dr. Patrick Gentempo guy?" And he said, "Jared, based on what you're looking to do, he's the perfect person for you to connect with." And he'd literally just entered my life that week as well. So I ended up meeting, Patrick reached out and he said, although I'm not looking to do anything right now, I started a company within the chiropractic profession. This is my second company. And if you want to come and just kind of meet with me and we can kind of brainstorm, I'm happy to do that. You're in New York, I'm in New Jersey. So I ended up meeting with Patrick. He shared his vision for the company and the impact that he wanted to have on the chiropractic profession in the world. And I left Wall Street the next day to join him. I remember when I had my first adjustment, I was 21 years old, and I looked up at the chiropractor, who is now my stepfather, and I said to him, "How did I not know about this sooner? How is it possible? I was seeking this out as an option. I would do anything that would give me the edge. How has it been 21 years for me to experience this?" And I said to him in that moment, "I don't know what it looks like, but in some way, shape, or form in my lifetime, I'm going to ensure that another person does not have to either wait 21 years or not experience this for their first 21 years, and we're going to get the chiropractic message out to the world." And that's become one of my motivations, is to really spread the message of chiropractic, because I know right now there are thousands of people within communities, millions of people around the world that want chiropractic. They want the benefits associated with it, but they have no idea that chiropractic and the adjustment, for that matter, is what they're looking for.
Wow, that's an incredible story. Thanks for sharing that. And you hit a couple of hot topics there. Number one is that you and I have something in common. I didn't learn about chiropractic or hear the story until I was 15. And just wondering what my life would have been like, different, how it would have been different if I'd had chiropractic since birth. It just really intrigued me. So I too made it my mission to make sure that I, figured some way to share this message with as many people as possible, so that children wouldn't have to live that many years without the benefits of chiropractic. 2 is that, Jared just sought out, if you will, some of the biggest minds in wellness. Paul Pilzer, from an economic standpoint, understood that our country was yearning for wellness principles. Patrick Gentempo has made the statement that wellness is a fraud without chiropractic. Now, let's talk about that. What does that mean? Because most people associate chiropractic with neck and back pain or headache. And though chiropractic can be very supportive with people dealing with those conditions, it really has nothing to do with treating those specific situations. So wellness is a fraud without chiropractic. Why? Because we have to figure out what keeps the body well. And what keeps the body well is the central nerve system. It's the signaling in the human body. It's the brain-body connection, if you will. And when we get kinks in the spine or something we call subluxations, they're tension spots, if you will. Oftentimes they go unnoticed, but oftentimes as people get into middle and upper ages, they can actually feel that tension. They just don't realize that it's actually creating nerve signaling interference and having an impact on the function of their overall body. I'm talking about eyes, ears, nose, throat, heart, liver, kidney, lungs, digestive organs, hormones, the whole gamut. Every single cell in the human body is controlled by the central nerve system. So when you're looking for a solution to improve the function of the body, it makes very little sense to think that an external agent, a pharmaceutical or a surgical procedure, is going to actually improve upon the health and wellness of the body. Now, those drug and surgical options are oftentimes very valuable in crisis or emergent situations. So we want to be very clear that we want to use those options when they're necessary, but to try to use those options to regain health in a human body oftentimes leaves us scratching our head and unable to find the root cause of said problem. So, Jared has developed this. He talked about having this mission to share the message with the masses. Well, the way he did that was by combining sort of a software company. It's like a hybrid, a software/marketing company. And I've never seen as many wellness-based chiropractors flock to a service and utilize it as I have with this Synduit platform that Jared launched. So he's got an awesome expertise, objective view of viewing chiropractors from the outside in. And one of the things that I hear with people in our office oftentimes is, I've been to chiropractors, but I've never heard what you're telling me. And so we have to figure out why there's such a discrepancy, and then we want to help you figure out what to look for to find the most appropriate chiropractic solution or wellness solution, if you will, for your family. So I'm going to give you a brief history. Chiropractic was born in 1895. A magnetic healer had formed a hypothesis, adjusted the upper neck of a janitor who was deaf. The pressure between the brain and the ear was relieved off of the nerve system, and the janitor regained his hearing. And this is really where heads started to turn, and people said, man, there might be something to this. These chiropractic healers, if you will, began helping thousands and thousands and thousands of people and developed a college of chiropractic up in Davenport, Iowa. It became a very large movement. Well, the medics who used the American Medical Association, who used primarily drug and surgical options, didn't understand what the chiropractors were doing because, quite frankly, at that point in time, there wasn't enough science available to edify what was happening. It was an anecdotal situation, meaning the proof was in the pudding. When people got adjusted, they had results, and that's all they needed to know. And medicine was a very scientific practice. We call that empiricism. Everything was empirical. There's experiments to measure outcomes and things of that nature. So what happened was there became this turf battle, so that the medical doctors, the American Medical Association, began to teach in their colleges in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and even 70s that no medical doctor should associate with any chiropractors. It would be grounds for dismissal from the school. They began to publish false data, pamphlets, and brochures that, quite frankly, were just untrue and were saying false things about the chiropractic profession. Let's fast forward to the 80s when now there was science available to back up the chiropractic practice, which we talked about last week with Keith Wasung, and we're going to do subsequent podcasts to bring that information to you. But the point of the story is that the Supreme Court of the United States ruled in favor of the chiropractic profession and said, there is enough scientific evidence. American Medical Association made an emotional move to try to contain and eliminate the practice of chiropractic, and now you guys are welcome to practice. So the chiropractors were elated. The medical doctors said, they kind of pulled a fast one. They said, okay, great, we'll let you practice, but we're going to allow you guys to basically do neck and back pain, and we'll reimburse you in the insurance industry or on the insurance system. We'll reimburse you for those things. So the chiropractor said, great, we'll do it. We call that the Mercedes 80s. And in the 80s, chiropractors were doing neck pain, back pain, E-stem, ultrasound, billing insurance like crazy and making a lot of money. And the profession sort of got away from its roots which is really all about the function of the human body. So now, fast forward to where we are today in 2015, pushing 2016, the bottom line is that there's many different chiropractors practicing many different ways, but I feel there's really two distinct versions of a chiropractor. There's a therapeutic-based chiropractor. Doesn't make them bad. They provide a great service oftentimes. But then there are your wellness-based, subluxation-based chiropractors who really focus on the true function of the entire body, not just one or two or three or four conditions. So, Jared, could you share with us kind of your experience on, that topic? Have you been exposed to different types of chiropractors? If so, what are things you look for? Say you're recommending a friend on the West Coast to a chiropractor. What are the things you tell them to sort of look for to make sure they're going to get the care that they need and deserve?
Yeah, it's a really important question, because one of the things that I have found with the lay audience, because I'm one of them, is that often we're skeptical to something that might be out of the ordinary, or we're skeptical because we've been told one thing about a group of people. So we enter into a situation with this story of doubt. So if that first experience isn't one that removes the doubt, then you don't really make any progress. And when it comes to your health, you really need the right person to work with. So one of the things that I always tell people when they're seeking out chiropractic care is to ensure that on their website, and if they don't have a website, then I wouldn't even pursue them. So on their website, they mention the word subluxation. They talk about their chiropractic story. So you actually go to their About Us page and you read their story and what they stand for as an individual. And I always look for chiropractors that talk about chiropractic as a lifestyle that allows you to experience health and vitality. That's something that's so important, because what lay people are looking for is a sustainable plan. They don't want that yo-yo effect. They want to know that if they're going to enter in to work with a chiropractor, or really work with anyone in the health and wellness space, that what they're going to get from that experience is a sustainable outcome. And chiropractic, especially with the right chiropractor, is the ultimate sustainable outcome. So that's one thing. Another thing to look for, and I always encourage chiropractors to do this, is to have a video on their website that welcomes the prospective patient to the office. And the reason I'm telling the lay audience that's listening to this to make sure there is a video like that is because you'll be able to connect. You'll be able to really gauge whether or not this person is right for you, or at least right for you to have an initial visit. And then when you're on that initial visit, get to know them. Ask questions about why they became a chiropractor and what is their chiropractic philosophy, and to tell stories without names of people that may have had similar situations like you do, and how chiropractic has been able to help them. And if you don't feel right about the person, then just seek out another chiropractor. But if you do feel right, go all in without any skepticism whatsoever, and just recognize that if this is the right chiropractor and you've done your due diligence, that there's a very good chance that this person can change your life. But I always say make sure that they're talking about subluxation, they're talking about chiropractic as a lifestyle, make sure that they have a website, make sure they tell their chiropractic story in their bio, and make sure that there's a video that's welcoming you to their website and talking about what your experience will be once they get into your office. So there are no unknowns. You know exactly what to expect. You feel very comfortable entering into that environment, and you're excited about the possibility of changing your health and quality of life.
Yeah, that's great information. A couple things. The word subluxation, make sure that we're looking for that word, because subluxation is something that really interferes with a healthy lifestyle and vitality and those types of things. I love the fact that Jared talks about looking for technology. If somebody is going to spend the time and effort to care for you as a human, they're probably also going to spend the time and energy to stay up to date with technology and web presence and videos and things like that. And one thing I want to add to that is, we suggest that you look for, and this is not just chiropractic, and anything you do, especially healthcare or dentistry or anything that you're looking to have a positive experience, it's important to have testing that can scientifically, prove that there's an issue, and that whatever practitioner you're dealing with has the tools to be able to alleviate or to correct those issues, and then do follow-up testing with measurable results. Oftentimes in the chiropractic world, people go for continued adjustments. They have to keep going and going and going, and the adjustment seems to work, but then it seems to wear off, and they have to go back, and there's really no measurable result that affects a permanent change to make an individual feel good about their time spent and, quite frankly, the investment that they made into their own health and wellness. So look for somebody who can do scientific testing to measure and evaluate the function of the body. And then if care is appropriate, we want to look for follow-up testing to measure and demonstrate the results that you are after. So listen, guys, we're running short on time here. We're going to kind of close this cast up. This has been a very important podcast. It's been full of a lot of gems that you can actually utilize to go ahead and help change the health and wellness of you, your loved ones, friends and family, etc. You know, our mission is to get the word out or get the information out that there are non-drug and surgical healthcare options available for many conditions out there that people just aren't aware of, that there may be other options. You know, I had a person in my office yesterday who saw something about ear infections in our office and said, you know, my friend's son has had 6 or 8 or 10 or whatever ear infections, and I would have never thought in a million years that chiropractic had anything to do with ear infections. So there's things like ear infections, headaches, sinuses, behavior problems, hormone imbalance, digestive problems, breathing problems. All of these different things can oftentimes have a root cause within, you know, issues in signaling in the human body, issues in alignment, also issues in body chemistry. And we're going to, on future casts, we're going to talk more about the alignment and the body chemistry parts of health and wellness. But this has been an incredible podcast, Jared. I want to thank you so much for joining us. You're doing incredible things out there. You actually are changing the world. It's just been a pleasure to get to know you. So I want to wish you well with you and your family and loved ones as we embark on this holiday season. I know you will, but we all want to remember what this season is about. Everybody look forward to future podcasts. Jared, thanks for joining us. You have any closing words?
Yeah, the closing words of this is for the lay people out there, the thousands and eventually millions that hear this podcast. Go in with an open mind, because I know that what you want is the chiropractic lifestyle, because that's what I always wanted. I just didn't know that the adjustment was part of that. And the power of the adjustment, especially when you're with the right chiropractor, someone that believes in chiropractic as a lifestyle, someone who talks about the subluxation, someone who has their own chiropractic stories. There's a real motivation for them to make a difference. It will make an enormous difference in your life. So be open to it. Go out there and experience it. Seek out the right chiropractor. And I'm really excited to hear what happens to you when you begin to put in the chiropractic lifestyle.
That's great. For those of you who want to reach out to Jared on Facebook, you can, find him out there. Synduit is SYNDUIT LLC. You can find that out there on the web and connect with Jared and see what he's up to and follow him. He's a dynamic individual. Guys, I'm Dr. Kris McClusky. This has been another episode of Wellness Works. We appreciate you all joining us, and stay tuned for our next cast.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Wellness Works with Dr. Kris McClusky. If this message spoke to you, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and share with a friend or loved one.